welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Live. We're back in Newmarket, but this week we're on the other side of town. We've come down to the Hamilton Road to catch up with Jack Jones, a trainer taking his first steps with a licence, a more established trainer in George Scott, who's closing in on a decade's worth of experience, and times that by 3, and you get Stuart Williams, who's just had over 30 years of experience within horse racing. Later we'll be catching up as well with Godolphin about the charitable exploits that they have within the business, but we're here at Dalham Stables and we'll start off with Stuart Williams. Come on.
Well, basically my mother and father moved to Newmarket from different parts of the country to work in racing, and I was born in Newmarket, so it started here for me.
And there was never any chance of you going off and doing something?
Well, I was going to be Lester Piggott, so that was all I wanted to do. I didn't concentrate at school, wanted to be out there as soon as possible. Left when I was 14, went over to Ireland to work for Liam Brown, just to escape going to school, really. So I just always wanted to be involved with horses, and it's been my life.
Your involvement wasn't just limited to Ireland, you travelled the world as well. That's kind of the done thing now with people looking to carry on their tutelage in the game. Was it the done thing then?
Not so much, but it's still a thing. If you can ride a racehorse well, and I thought I was pretty good at riding them, you'd get a job anywhere in the world. You could turn up anywhere and be able to earn a living. And I did that, and I enjoyed it immensely. It was a great time travelling. When I first went out there, I got to ride a filly that was running in the cup races called Round the World, and she was quite lean, and he wanted her to do what they call 7 evens, which is a 7 furlong gallop at 15 seconds a furlong each furlong. Okay. And I'd come back and say, how was that? And he'd say, well, you were a second and a half out. And you think, well, a second and a half out doing 15 seconds a furlong for 7 furlongs isn't too bad, but it's about 10 lengths. Now, if someone's gone 10 lengths too fast or 10 lengths too slow here on the gallop, they're going to get told off. Mm-hmm. So it took me about 3 months to learn to get that pretty much spot on, to do that. And like I said, you wouldn't have done that here. It's not something we used to do in Newmarket.
So in the early to mid 90s, you're going to start taking your own licence out for the first time. Take me back to the first day, the very first day. You've got one horse in your possession.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Talk me through the feeling.
So the obvious step for me next was I was always quite interested in how we did the training, and was part of how do I get to the stage where I can get my licence out. At the time, you had to have been an assistant trainer to one of the other trainers to get a licence, and I hadn't. So I thought the best way for me to do it was to try and prove to myself and to other people that I could do this by doing one horse. And I used to ride it out in the morning. Managed to get someone to give me a yearling that didn't get sold. Managed to break it in myself, ride it out in the mornings before work or afternoons after work, go back evening stables and do it after we'd done my job. Luckily enough, she won first time out for us. And it's kind of give me the confidence to think, well, I can actually do this, and so give 1 or 2 people the confidence to give me a couple of horses. I still hadn't been assistant trainer to anybody, and I managed to amass 5 horses and take them to Tony Hyde, and he very kindly agreed to take me on as assistant trainer for a year, and I was with Tony for a year with those 5 horses. And the following year we had 12 and started training that year under my own name.
The business, though, has changed in a fair way.
Well, I think it's a lot more expensive now. When I first started training, I was charging £150 a week. People are charging that in 2 days now, more. So and the prize money hasn't kept up with it, which is one of our gripes on our side, is that, the very first race I won was a median auction race, which was £3,000 to the winner. And you can find the exact same race today. There'll be a median auction race run today somewhere with £3,000 to the winner. Yeah, and yet all the other costs have gone through the roof. So that was, I was lucky that I started when I did, because I would have found it very, very hard to do what I did then now. It'd be very, very difficult, just from a cost basis. Like I said, we started with one horse. We've now got 50 here in the stables, and we own a prestigious racing stable in the town that that the owners helped me purchase. So, like I said, I've had a lot of help along the way, but I started from a very small base. I had 10 grand in the bank and thought, well, worst thing that can happen is I'll lose 10 grand and I have to go back working where I was before. So I thought I'd give it a go. But it is a struggle to, we have to, the rent on this place is 70,000 a year. The rates are 64,000 a year. So that's what we've got to put down before we put a horse in the stable. Before we collect anything, that's got to be accounted for. So, when you work out the finances, there's not a huge amount of money left at the end of the day. So it's imperative that we're watching how we spend the money, what we spend it on, and maximise every pound that we spend here for myself and the owners.
When it comes to racing's biggest crisis, is prize money the biggest one, or is it the staffing one?
Well, like I said, the BHA and the bookmakers have gone down the road of volume. So we need more people than we ever needed before, because there's racing every day now. Obviously, we're going to put racing on Sunday night through the winter now. And, it's finding enough staff to help that model survive, if that's the way we're going. And that looks like what their plan is, to have, if not more racing, it's racing in different parts of the day. They spread it out so it's not less racing is what they're having. So, that's one of the problems. But the biggest problem is the prize money. So what I'd like to get to a situation where, when we have a winner, we could give every lad in the yard 50 quid. So imagine we had 3 winners that week. The lads would get 150 quid extra in their wages. Now, that would focus their minds on
The attention
trying
to
to
detail,
attention to detail and trying to do the best they can. But under the prize money structure we're getting, if we win one of those 3 grand races, my share of that 3 grand race is about 175 quid. There's no chance I'm giving the lads 150 quid each. You can't.
No.
But if those races were like, we're not going to get to the Hong Kong model, but if it was, we could get to an Australian model where they've got some of the races, the smallest races at the big tracks are 15,000. You win one of those, you'd then get into the stage where, well, you can give the lads a nice chunk of that because you've won some money. It's worth winning. If you win 2 or 3 of those, you'll pay for the horse for the year. I think we need to get to that stage rather than where we are now, where you'd probably, with an ordinary horse, you'd probably have to win 6 races at least to cover yourself, which is, how many horses win 6 races?
I think the great thing about racing is whoever you are, whatever you've achieved, that there's always something left to achieve. What would be the top of your list?
Well, I want to be competing in more group races. I want to be the best I can. Realistically, we're never going to have 300 horses to train, and I'm not sure I'd want them. I quite like being hands-on with the horses myself. I like to know them all individually. Like to think I know them all like the back of my hand. Work closely with the staff. We've got a brilliant set of staff here that are very dedicated to try and do the best we can. I like to work closely with them, and 60 or 70 horses would be fantastic, and just try and up the quality a bit so we're competing in the better handicaps and group races when we can find them.
Training racehorses, an ever-evolving process. If you don't get with the times, you'll quickly get left behind. There was a small worry that was going to happen for George Scott, who made a fast start early in his training career and then experienced a slight lull. However, a couple of minor tweaks, and it resulted last season in his best ever total in terms of winners and in prize money. 37 winners and just shy of 367 grand in prize money. We've come to find out how exactly the change came about.
When I started training, I had a great foundation, having been assistant to Jane Cecil at Warren Place, and was able to take on a few horses, and with a good reputation. And we started strongly, and and James Garfield came along very early on in my career, and we were spoilt by that. So we were constantly looking for another horse, and we went for 2 or 3 years, and for whatever reason things just didn't really flow as we'd have liked. So we had a long sit down at the end of the year before last, and with the people closest to me, my family, my friends, some of my senior staff, and we worked out why things might not be going as smoothly as they should, and we adjusted a few things, and thankfully we've turned the corner.
Was that a particularly frank conversation? Was
Yeah.
everything that needed to be said?
Yeah, I think so. There was certainly no finger pointing, but it was clear things were slipping in the wrong direction. I was never sort of massively concerned, but because the horses were running well, they just weren't winning. I mean, I think our percentage strike rate was just unbelievable, but you have to win in this game. There's nothing for second or third or running well. You have to win, and you live and die by that. So we had to change a few things around to ensure that we improved our statistics, and as I say, that was from a ventilation system that we put in the barn, a change in training slightly, but more importantly, it was going out and buying a different type of horse, and I'm pleased that we've done that, and we found some able replacements for James Garfield, although they're not quite to his level yet.
You're closing in on a decade of training, not quite there, that'll be a couple of seasons' time. Is there something quite nice about not necessarily being the shiny new thing, with a bit of buzz about you? You're established, you've shown you can put the winners on the board, and the prize money's up as well. Is there something quite nice about having a bit of experience to you?
Yeah, it's definitely a different period in my career, but I really feel like we're just getting started again. That's what I feel like. I feel like the momentum is back with us, and I feel, as I say, when I get to 10 years, having trained for 10 years, I really feel like the picture will look very different to where I'm sat now. So you do learn so much in this game, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've hated it at times. But I think that's professional sport. You look at Leicester City. It wasn't a decade ago that they were they're the Premier League winners, and now they've been relegated. And professional sport is about the moments that you, as I said, you win and you progress, and you get beat and you lose and you learn from it. So I feel like I've learned a hell of a lot, and I've got a lot more to learn. But I hope that we're sat here at the end of my 10th season, and we're continue to be in a much stronger position.
And things started so fast, as you say. You had James Garfield, but your third ever runner was a winner on debut for the Newmarket family, cajoled at Kempton. It's kind of a full circle, because while he was a back-end two-year-old, a two-year-old nonetheless, we're now starting to associate you with a different type of horse, a speedier type, a more precocious type, ones that do have longevity as well, but two-year-old winners who you expect to perform a little bit earlier than you necessarily would have at the start.
Yeah, for sure. And that we've done that deliberately. We went 3 years ago. I had this idea that we would try and buy a back-end two-year-old, with the idea of maybe trading horses on into that international market, and it just stopped us dead in our tracks. So although those type of horses have been coming through, your Pridwins and Captain Canes, and they've been fantastic servants for us in the last year or two, we wanted to get involved in this two-year-old rush. It's becoming more and more exciting, this build up to Ascot. Bigger owners seem to be taking more of an interest in it. Young trainers are getting stuck in and training plenty of winners before Ascot. And it was a deliberate approach to get hold of these types of horses and try and have some two-year-old winners at the Royal Meeting, but also horses that would go on like Rocket Rodney did. So yeah, it's something that we went out, we've tried to buy them, and thankfully we have bought the right type of horse. We obviously were second in the Windsor Castle last year, which was fairly brutal, bumping into Little Big Bear in the Windsor Castle. How unlucky is that? We toyed with the idea of going to the Norfolk, and I think if I've got that type of horse again, I will go to the Norfolk, because I think it can end up a weaker race, because everyone's thinking the same thing.
Absolutely. Victorious Racing, the owners of both Rocket Rodney and Watch My Tracer, and last year's winner, the commentary winner, Bradsell as well.
Yeah.
you'd associate them with these types of horses. Was it almost a slight sense of relief that you have a good one for them and they can carry that kind of thing on?
100%. I mean, it starts back with Fawzi Nas, who we know is a trainer in Dubai and Bahrain, and obviously an owner here. And he actually is the landlord, my landlord. He's a wonderful man, and he's sort of been very good to me and sort of stuck by me through quite a painful process over the last few, the period of time that we discussed earlier. And and when Rocket Rodney came along, I owned him in partnership with a friend, and I said to him, "Sir, I think, Fawzi, I think this horse could be a really exciting horse for Ascot." And he then bought Rocket Rodney for Sheikh Nasser, who is Victorious Racing, and it's been a lovely association with them and with Sheikh Nasser, and who is really one of the most passionate, charming men you could ever wish to meet. I mean, just such a nice man, so interested. He's a champion endurance rider himself, and I've been to see him in Bahrain and have lots of conversations with him and about all types of sports. So it was great when he allowed me to buy a few horses for him at the sales, and slightly beyond my wildest dreams really to be taking two horses back to two 2-year-olds back to Royal Ascot for him. And he is, it's a pleasure to train for someone so enthusiastic and knowledgeable, and also that everyone associates with good horses. It's great for the brand, it's great for the George Scott brand to have the trust of someone like Sheikh Nasser, in the yard.
What was also great for the brand was the success last season of Rocket Rodney, early bolting up at Goodwood. Yes, unlucky to bump into what turned out to be an extremely exciting now sprinter in Little Big Bear, but you had your day at Sandown.
Yeah, no, it's a funny horse, that Rocket Rodney, because we were at the sales, and Bill O'Gorman, who was a wonderful trainer back in his day, and Billy Jackson Stocks, who's a great friend of mine and doing brilliant young bloodstock agent, really doing well. The team that I've sort of assembled at the sales, and they both liked Rocket Rodney as a yearling, and I just didn't really like him anyway. I just couldn't have him. Anyway, so the horse didn't sell, and the vendor rang me and said, "Oh, the horse that you really liked didn't sell. Would you have anyone for him?" I said, "I didn't like him that much." He said, "Oh, well, your guys did." Anyway, to cut a long story short, he said we did a deal whereby he sent him to me and gave me half of him, and then he kept the other half for no training fees. Anyway, so I was like training away. He said, "Oh, he rang me and said, can I name him after my dad?" I said, "You can name whatever you like." I was thinking he's going to be no good, this horse, because he's a funny shape, big back on him. You would never pick him. So you can name him whatever you like, it won't matter anyway. So he said, "Oh, I'm going to name him Rocket Rodney." I thought, "Oh, what a terrible name." It doesn't matter anyway, no one will ever know him anyway. Anyway, in the spring he starts working, and he's just, everything that he's going with, he's working, he's beating. I ring him up and say, "Stephen, any chance we can rename that horse?"
Your ambition, it comes out of every pore of you, it's plain to see. With that comes the highs are heady, and the lows must be particularly low. And I think in recent times we've focused a lot on jockeys' mental health, because why wouldn't you? It stands to reason. Something we're only just starting to talk about is trainers' mental health. How exactly do you find that with your personality?
I try to stay more level. I mean, having children has obviously made a big difference to my life, coming back and seeing them when things haven't gone as well. And I think a lot of fathers would say that, it keeps you a lot more balanced. That's my passion is them, and then training, so they go, that's really all I do now. So that's been great. But yeah, no, I do. I take it quite hard, I do. And I felt, at times very, very low at times, and I'm very happy to say that, but I've learnt from that feeling. I've kind of bottled that feeling, and I'm not sure that I will get back to that point again, because I've learnt how to deal with it. And what's wonderful, we do have a great group of friends in Newmarket who are all trainers, and we do talk about it a bit, and some people deal with it well and some people don't deal with it so well, but it comes with professional sport, doesn't it? The winning and the losing, the ups and the downs, and I do equate it slightly to professional managers and what they get. You really are only as good as your results. So Yeah, I deal with it okay. I think the people closest to me might say that I don't at times, but you know, I definitely feel like I've learned a lot from what we've been through, like everyone does, and you know, I'm much more level now than I was. But I do love the highs, the great days, you know, and I think I struggled massively when people didn't want to have horses with us and didn't want to do interviews with us, and it, you know, and that I learned a lot from that period in my career. And now people do want to have horses with us and do want to do interviews and do want to invite you to things. And once you just learn, you learn to deal with it a lot better. And I've learned a lot from that time.
If you're afforded the luxury of time, patience eventually will be rewarded. And after 20 or so runners, Jack Jones was off the mark as a trainer when Chagall won by a whisker in a handicap at Chelmsford on a rainy Thursday evening. Well, more success has followed in his first proper season as a trainer. First out 2-year-olds, for example, one of them about to give him a particularly big day.
Yeah, like last year was tough. It was tough. I wouldn't say tough. We was just sort of unlucky. Lots of second and thirds, a couple of injuries, but you're that busy trying to sort of build the business up, make new contacts. You can't really overthink things. You just keep busy, keep kicking on, and hope things will work. Which it's sort of starting to find its place now, and it's good. And yeah, no, this year's been fab. Sort of 2-year-old winners and jumps winner the other week, so it's good.
Do you think 2022 in some ways is a year you've learnt more than in any other one, because it's now you with the licence and now decisions that previously weren't yours are now completely yours?
Hugely. You couldn't have put it better yourself. Not only from the horse angle, you can learn as much as you can assistant, that sort of angle, but doing it yourself, you've got the horses to train, horses to manage, and most importantly, I think the running of a business. I think it was completely something, unless you're doing it, you can't do it.
That's something that probably a lot of racing fans don't think about. This isn't just sport, this is a business, and the two have to marry together.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just a case of, so probably about this time last year, writing letters to sort of all sorts of different people, and got very few replies, but you just got to sort of be quite sort of numb with it and just keep kicking on and doing what you think's working, you know.
Take me back to the first winner, Chagall, on a kind of a dark, dank Chelmsford, typical Chelmsford Thursday evening meeting. The last race, was it the last race? Yeah, I think it was the last race.
It was the 8:30, and obviously I drove the box there, and you think to yourself, first winner, been sort of waiting all summer for it to come, and you think, oh, we'll get back home and have a few drinks. By the time we got home, it was about 10:30, and everyone else had gone to bed. But no, great day. His first run for us, he had sort of, I think, 6 duck eggs by his name. He was officially rated 36. I was ringing the handicap for the week before to try and get him put up. We were going to get balloted out of most races. I mean, he got into that race, and he ran 10 pound out of the handicap, and yeah, did it nicely. And again, like his work had been nice enough at home. I thought, he's an old horse. He was 6-year-old then, but I just was worried that he might have just been a horse that does it in the mornings. But luckily, he went on and sort of got that job done, and he's been great ever since. Actually, he won again at Lingfield, and then second 3 or 4 times. I think second at the valuable Bath meeting. So he's been sort of real legend.
A first winner generally would send the trainer's heart rate through the roof, let alone just getting his nose down exactly on the line.
A couple of mates were there, and I've sort of run from probably about the furlong point to near the finish post. Most of the stuff fell out of my pockets. It was just, yeah, that's what you do it for, really. That's the best thing about it, really is.
Would the plan be to remain dual purpose all the way through?
Yeah, look, as I say, from being a sort of jumps background, I love my jumps, and sort of nothing more would. I think a few people ask me Royal Ascot winner or Cheltenham Festival winner. I don't think there would be much between it, to be fair. So yeah, look, I'd love to train sort of predominantly flat with some jumpers as well, to sort of, and I think from a business point of view, it's nice to keep ticking through with runners in the winter as well. Obviously, you've got the all-weather racing, but if you can have the odd runner over the jumps during the winter. It keeps things going. Staff don't want to be not going racing for 4 months if they can go racing, and sort of keeps everyone happy and keeps the ball rolling really.
One more stop this week in Newmarket, and it's to Dalham Hall Stud to find out more about Godolphin's education initiative to try and open up our industry to the next generation.
Born from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed's passion for horses and for education, we've been able to create this wonderful education pathway in Newmarket through Godolphin for children between age 9 through to 16. So it's a 3-phase programme, and it's really about giving them an understanding of the opportunities our industry can offer, while there's also getting them the opportunity to get up and close to these horses, you know, something that's usually behind closed doors to them. So giving them that first encounter for a lot of children, even though they are Newmarket born and bred, you know, they're here at school, but they don't get those chances to actually see foals. And as you've seen this morning, you know, that moment to touch a foal for the first time is magical.
Obviously we look at the stallions as part of the day, then they'll come out here usually in the afternoon and come to the mares and foals. So they're sort of seeing the whole life of the horse from birth, obviously through to racing when we take them to the races, and then obviously they'll see the mares and foals at the end of their career. So they'll obviously see all aspects of the job, which is good, and like you can see for yourselves, it's amazing.
It really is, but this isn't just a nice excuse to get out of double maths. This is an interactive experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the children arrive, we've got a little presentation that we do in the room, which talks all about stud life, a little bit about Godolphin, the intro into the stud, the life of the stallions before their life as a stallion, going through racing. We teach them all about a pedigree of the horse. So yeah, the whole, you know, it's not just a little jolly out to look at the horses. They are learning all about racing life and stud life.
The Newmarket Pony Academy, we started out with a great idea from Penny Taylor, who works at Godolphin. She went to Ebony Horse Club and saw what the amazing work they were doing. We did a pilot week here after gaining some support, and the rest is history really. We're now a long way down the line with a very successful schools programme. We take referrals for after school clubs. The difficult thing is our young people have various challenges in their lives, and they don't have access to horses and ponies. It's amazing. We live near Newmarket and a lot of them have family, etc. in racing, but they don't actually have access. So for us, particularly working with the schools, we're able to bring children in as young as sort of 10, 9, 10, and they're able to come look after the ponies for a week, learn how to look after them, learn about racing as well. We're at the British Racing School, so as a happy coincidence, you know, we're getting young people into racing as well, and really it's just giving them the opportunity that they don't have.
We've got the Understarters Orders programme, which is the sort of first phase, and then we lead to there's the Newmarket Pony Academy, which is that's actually hands-on. That's a real week for 10 to 11-year-olds primarily they spend time at the Pony Academy. They're there, they're learning to ride, but they're also learning the basics, mucking out, watering, grooming, but that's also combined with curriculum activities. So they're learning measurements, they're learning weights, they're learning about horse feed and protein and carbohydrates, which they can translate back into the classroom. So they're actually learning away from the classroom in a much more fun and exciting environment that we'd all love to have done, but you know, they're taking something home from it, and the confidence and the raising their aspirations, I think, is very key to that. And then from that, we've got the Newmarket Academy Godolphin Beacon Project, which is our secondary school programme, working with the local school in Newmarket. So when they move there at age 11, it's really going into a bit more depth about the numerous career opportunities we have, and they get to go out and do hands-on experience and see how lab technicians work for the vets, how physios work for the jockeys, how media work into the equation of our industry. There is so much scope, and there's lots of different initiatives, around about 30 per academic year, that racing schools deliver for us and bring it to life.
So that's it for the latest edition of This Racing Live. Thanks to Stuart Williams, George Scott, Jack Jones, Godolphin, and here at the British Racing School with the Newmarket Pony Academy for opening their doors over the course of the last few days. We'll see you very soon, but for now, bye-bye.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.